Welcome back, focused learners. Today, we're diving into a brand new explainer, and we are synthesizing a ton of comprehensive sports science data into one clear, actionable roadmap for your fitness journey. We're going to unpack the complete life cycle of a lift, starting right from how you trigger muscle growth all the way to bulletproofing your body against injuries. It's going to be a good one. Our agenda today is packed. We'll be walking through the science of progressive overload, the dreaded ego lifting trap, how to prime your body, the calorie deficit paradox, and wrapping up with the true power of recovery. Let's get right into it. Section 1. The science of progressive overload, the actual biological driver of muscle growth. To kick things off, the data makes it incredibly clear that muscle adaptation isn't just about showing up and randomly moving heavy objects around. It requires a really specific biological driver. You kind of have to think of your body as a slow cooker, rather than a pressure cooker. When you introduce a new movement, your body literally needs weeks to neurologically adapt. Trying to pressure cook that process by stacking on too much weight too soon, well, that's just a fast track straight to joint damage. So what does this actually look like in practice? The research gives us this fascinating hierarchy. And the biggest takeaway here is that adding weight is actually step 3, not step 1, step 3. Step 1 is always mastering strict form, period. Step 2 is increasing your reps. Honestly, you generally shouldn't even touch the next dumbbell size up until you can hit about 15 clean, highly controlled reps. Only after you nail that do you actually increase the load or start shortening your rest times. Moving on to section 2, the ego lifting trap, leaving your ego at the gym door. The science highlights a massive, systemic hurdle that completely compromises our joints over time. And it all starts with ego lifting. The sources define this as using loads that totally exceed your neuromuscular control and structural tolerance. And look, let's be real here. It's usually driven by psychosocial factors, meaning wanting to look impressive to the person working out on the next bench. But chasing those heavy numbers over strict technique, that actively leads to acute traumatic injuries and long-term joint wear and tear. What's really wild is how easily these bad habits sneak into our routines without us even noticing. You might think your form is dialed in, but ask yourself, are you constantly maxing out with just 1 to 5 reps? Are you cutting your squats high just so you can stack another plate on the bar? Or maybe you're using a little momentum to swing the weight up. One of the biggest, most common errors is lacking eccentric control. That basically means you're just dropping the weight instead of slowly lowering it. And that lowering portion, the eccentric phase, that is actually where the most crucial muscle damage for growth occurs. You do not want to skip that. And here is the ultimate irony the data reveals. Lifting too heavy actually decreases the quality of the stimulus on your target muscle. If a weight is so heavy that your set is completely over in less than 30 seconds, your time under tension is simply too short. You won't create the metabolic stress your body needs for growth. You are literally sacrificing real gains for a sloppy, heavy set. No way around it. Section 3. Priming your body. The difference between actually warming up and just tiring yourself out. Shifting over to physical execution, there is a massive systemic error happening in gyms all over the world when it comes to warm-ups. Think about a beginner squatting 150 pounds versus an advanced lifter moving 450. The 150-pound squatter, they're like a Honda Civic. Low force, really high margin for error. But that 450-pound squatter is a Formula One car. As your absolute load increases, the shear forces on your joints become absolutely massive. Hopping into that F1 car totally cold leaves you with zero margin for error. So what is the right way to prep the engine? Well, it turns out that the old-school method of jogging on a treadmill and doing long, static hamstring stretches is heavily outdated. Sports science actually shows that static stretching right before you lift decreases your neural drive and lowers your power output. Instead, you want a neuromuscular warm-up. We're talking just 3 to 5 minutes of general movement to raise your core temp, followed immediately by dynamic activation to really prime that central nervous system. Which brings us to section 4, the calorie deficit paradox, fueling the machine while burning fat. Entering the nutritional phase of the lift's life cycle, we have to tackle one of the absolute most debated topics in fitness. Can you actually build or at least maintain your hard-earned muscle while eating in a calorie deficit to lose fat? The evidence says yes. And it all basically boils down to the old phrase, use it or lose it. But to do it, you have to navigate a really tricky paradox. Get this. Even a modest 500-calorie deficit alone suppresses your body's muscle protein synthesis by about 20%. To combat that drop, you need high protein to save the tissue. However, protein has calories. So the more protein you eat to protect your muscle, the more those calories eat into your strict limit for fat loss. It's a seriously tight balancing act. Thankfully, the research gives us a clear, evidence-based roadmap to pull this off. Rule 1. Keep your deficit modest. Do not go over a 500-calorie deficit a day. Rule 2. Keep your protein high. Aim for about 1.6 to 2.4 grams per kilogram of your body weight. Rule 3. Focus heavily on resistance training over endless cardio because that signals your body to spare the muscle tissue. And finally, avoid aggressively slashing your carbs. You absolutely need that glycogen to fuel your workouts. Section 5. The power of recovery, where the actual growth happens. We've reached the final phase. We have to remember a golden rule. The gym is purely for breaking tissue down. The actual building back up, that happens entirely during rest. A huge part of this is something called autoregulation. That simply means adjusting your daily training volume and load based on your body's actual readiness. Blindly forcing yourself to hit a weight just because a spreadsheet tells you to, even when you're exhausted, is a massive error that causes you to plateau. Managing your reps in reserve helps you manage fatigue safely. Now, the data on sleep deprivation is just staggering. Sacrificing your sleep for social events or even for extra early workouts completely destroys your endocrine system's ability to recover. Look at this. Testosterone and IGF-1 both drop significantly, which directly halts muscle protein synthesis. Meanwhile, cortisol, the stress hormone, skyrockets, leading to muscle breakdown and chronic fatigue. Oh, and your insulin sensitivity drops too, meaning poor glycogen storage. You literally cannot out-train sleep deprivation. Recovery is also the perfect time to audit your routine for hidden biomechanical blind spots. Are you over-prioritizing the mirror muscles, just hammering chest and biceps while omitting the posterior chain? That's a surefire way to get a rounded, terrible posture. Also, pay attention to side-to-side strength asymmetries greater than 10%. And please, make sure you are actively exhaling on exertion, not just holding your breath under heavy loads. To synthesize everything we've looked at today, muscle growth is a marathon, not a sprint. Take pride in how you live to ensure joint longevity. It's so vital to prioritize your long-term health and consistent, smart technique over short-term ego. So I'll leave you with this thought to mull over as we wrap up this explainer. Think about your own habits right now. Are you meticulously tracking your progress, nailing your progressive overload, and respecting your recovery? Or are you just showing up, moving weights blindly, and hoping for the best? Apply these evidence-based principles to your very next workout and just watch how your body responds. Thanks for hanging out, keep learning, keep focusing, and we'll catch you next time.